Welcome to the Franchise Show. I hope you're all doing swimmingly and you've had a lovely week in franchising. I've had a lovely week in franchising, although my ear is still blocked. So if you're going to talk to me, talk to this side, not that side. But I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone's been up to. If you're joining us live today, so where do we begin? We always begin by letting you know the premise of this show. And the franchise show is, as you can imagine, about franchising, but it's about a few more things. You know, if you're a franchisee, a franchisor, an entrepreneur, or if you're interested in franchising, then this is a safe space for a good old discussion, a deep delve into a subject. And we encourage comments and try to involve everybody in the show. If you're a regular to this show, you will know that if you make a comment, we'll bring it up on screen and we will chat about it. So it's really what drives the show. So I encourage you all, if you can, to make a comment. So we take a different topic each week and we have a lovely guest. Today is no exception. We have a lovely guest. And the topic this week is E2 visas. Now, this is a very interesting one for me. We get quite a few international inquiries here in the UK, and it's going to be great to hear from Patrick about what this is and how it works in the US. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our wonderful guest, and it's Patrick Findaro. Patrick is a YouTube sensation in the franchising world. He does some amazing stuff there, but he also runs a business that deals specifically and conveniently with the topic we're going to be discussing today. So really looking forward to getting into the conversation. So Patrick, perhaps you could introduce yourself a little bit, perhaps how you've got into franchising, and explain a little bit about what an E2 visa is for a starter.
Thanks, Harvey. So for the last, say, 11 years, I've been in this intersection of U.S. immigration with franchising. I used to work in finance, started my career at JP Morgan. I then worked at a couple of firms in the information services space. And then I worked at a small private equity fund that had money coming in from overseas investors, foreign nationals investing 500K in the fund at the time, and it was to create 10 jobs through lending that money to multi-unit franchisees. So think big hotel franchisees, quick service restaurant franchisees, and it was kind of a win-win that the limited partners, these overseas investors, were able to get a green card through the EB5 visa program, which was 500K at the time, and the franchisees were able to get below market debt financing to continue expanding their restaurants, continue expanding their hotels. And that transpired in 2015 to my brother and I starting a company called Visa Franchise, where my brother Jack worked for the parent company of Burger King at Restaurant Brands International that owns Popeyes, Tim Hortons, Firehouse Subs now. And we had all these investors, principally from South America, including from Brazil, that had dual nationality with countries that were eligible for the E2 investor visa. There's about 80 countries, all Western Europe, now that Portugal was finally ratified in the last week, and many countries in South America. So we had a big pool of prospective clients that didn't have 500K, but they had 100,000 and they wanted to move sooner to the United States. And the E2 visa, you can move here in as little as 2 weeks if you're already residing here legally in another visa status, or if you're going to be applying from abroad, 3 to 6 months. So that's a little bit about our background. We thought franchising made a lot of sense for the E2 investor visa. We had experience with the EB5 investor visa, which is now 800,000. And we continue to support a lot of clients through investing in franchises. but we've also opened up our practice to people that are maybe starting their own business or maybe bringing their franchise from abroad to the United States market and are looking to obtain a US visa like the E2 visa.
Great, thank you. That's a fantastic and fascinating description. I put Alicia's comment up there. Alicia was a guest on the show. Alicia's put, "Hello, franchise friends. Patrick is a terrific resource about franchising." Well, there you go. Look, that's
Very
made
nice.
Patrick smile there. And Alicia also is and was a wonderful guest and of course an expert on private equities. So
Oh yeah, recently read her book. Incredible book.
yes, absolutely. And it's over there, but I can't reach it. Before we continue, just want to recognize a few people that have joined us early on today. We have the ever wise Simon Wise. He's very wise, you see. It's good to have you here, Simon. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on E2 visas and people coming and investing in a franchise business, perhaps from another region, and how difficult and easy that is, and your experiences of that. Simon runs FranRec. It's a franchise recruitment business. He's a specialist here in the UK, and it's great to have you here, Simon. I'm going to go back to Alicia's comment again and recognize her again, but it's great to have you here, Alicia. Thanks for joining us. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on E2 visas. And we have the lovely Sanjay. Great to have you here, Sanjay. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts as well on this fascinating subject. And finally, I'd like to recognize the lovely Julie Waits. I had the privilege of meeting Julie in person at one of the exhibitions, and she's joining us from the northeast of England. So welcome, Julie. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. So we've got a question from Simon. Let's put it up. Why do you need an E2 visa? Well, there you go. I'm going to put that one across to you, Patrick.
If you're looking to live in the United States, maybe you want to enroll your children in school, spend more than 90 days, as if you're applying from the UK, you could have ESSA coming back and stay in the United States for 90 days. But if you're really looking to live in the United States, your spouse is able to work, your kids are able to go to public school, not pay for schooling, then the E2 visa could make sense.
Okay. Fantastic. So is it something that's specific to the US? Are people coming from other countries? Are there other countries around the world that are doing this, or is it just the US?
It's bilateral. So Patrick, as an American citizen, I'm allowed to go to the UK also, and you have your own entrepreneur visa category, and these 80 or so countries have a reciprocity treaty with the United States that allows inbound and inbound investment, as well as the principal of that inbound investment to come to the US and oversee their investment, their business in that country.
Great. So those are, so does it just lie within those 80 countries? To have the E2 visa, you must be within one of those 80.
You have to have citizenship from one of those roughly 80 countries. Last count, I think it was like 77 countries. Notable ones that don't have it: India, although there's talks that India is going to ratify an E2 treaty visa. Brazil, Russia, China, they don't, at least today, they don't necessarily want Americans coming and starting businesses in those countries. And maybe the US, doesn't want Russians coming over to start businesses in the US, at least through that mechanism, through the E2. But the longest standing treaty is actually from the UK back in the early 1800s. There was a treaty ratified that created a Treaty of Commerce and Navigation, which allows for the modern day E2 visa.
Excellent. Pioneers, you see, between the two of us.
Oh yeah.
Oh well, look, we've got a few juicy comments coming in. Let's have a little look. We've got something here from Sanjay. Great intro, Patrick. Is there something similar in Canada? or is this US only, please? Do you know if
There is,
Canada are getting
yeah,
it?
there's something similar in Canada. To my understanding, it's you don't get the visa for as much time. The E2 visa for most countries, you get a 5-year visa, where for Canada, it's going to be also on a provincial level. So if you're looking to migrate to Quebec, Ontario, British Columbia, there's different immigration options. Where in the United States, our immigration is a federal matter, where in Canada, the different provinces can have their own programs to attract foreign nationals into that province.
Fantastic, great answer to that question, and I hope it's something that continues to expand. You mentioned, was it Portugal that have just joined the list of
Yeah,
countries?
so back December 2022, the US ratified the Amigos Act, adding Portugal to the list. But it took about 18 months to get all the ducks in the row between the US government and Portuguese government. But as of this week, May 2024, now they're accepting E2 visa applicants for those that have Portuguese citizenship.
Correct.
And there's a lot of Brazilians, millions of Brazilians that have Portuguese citizenship. Also, obviously, millions of people based in Portugal with Portuguese citizenship. So it is an opportunity
Yeah.
for those that are looking to move stateside.
Yeah, it opens up, like you say, it's citizenship. It's not living there. It's, if you've got a passport. So that's a great question there, Sanjay. Let's have a look at another one. We got one here from Julie. Julie's put, is there anything the same similar in the UK re a fund for franchisees looking for investment? Interesting.
So,
I know you're
yeah.
US mostly, and
So the UK, if you speak fluent English, there are ways that you can go to the UK and operate a business, say a franchise business. And they got rid of their higher investment threshold investor visa. There were a lot of Russian oligarchs that were taking advantage of that. I think for political reasons, the UK government got rid of it. So to my understanding, there's no sort of investment structure similar to the EB5 investor visa where funds can be pooled and then lent out to franchisees. I believe with the startup visa program that you have in the UK, you're able to own an interest in a business. So you could take on a partner, but from what I understand, it would have to be an equity partner in your business, and they might have to have majority ownership and control in your UK franchise.
Fantastic. Great answer to that question. This is a really interesting subject. If you've just joined us today, this is the Franchise Show, and we're live. Well, if you're joining us on the 7th of May at 5:28, we are. If it's in the future, we're not. But we are talking to the wonderful Patrick Findaro, and we are talking about E2 visas and all things franchising. And it's a fascinating conversation so far. The replays are on YouTube. Check those out. And if you're here live, always fascinating to hear your thoughts. So please add a comment. Let's have a look. We've got a comment from the lovely Simon Wise. Can you share any franchising brand stories where you have facilitated the visa and the resulting success of the investor in the USA? Before you answer this one, I've got to mention our wonderful show that we have on a Thursday. Every Thursday, 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST, we have, conveniently, it's right here, Franchising Brand Stories. Lovely host for that one, actually. Franchising Brand Stories. That's me. But we every week we take a different brand. We interview them. We find the story behind that brand. I'm going to go back as well to this part of it because later on in the episode we're going to talk to Patrick about his work on YouTube. And he does a little bit of interviewing of brands and finds out their stories, so we can find out all about that. But do join us Thursdays 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST. Anyway, so Patrick, what stories of success, and there must be some real life-changing stories where someone gets that American dream, as it were. Are there any that stick out in your mind?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we've helped hundreds of clients from all over the world, and we've also filmed clients on site. 2 weeks ago, and stay tuned as we release them on our YouTube channel at Visa Franchise. We filmed franchisees that open different concepts like Amazing Athletes in Naples, Florida, Pure Green, a juice and smoothie concept, as well as dog hotels here in Miami Beach. And those investments range from anywhere from, I think, 80K up to $300,000. We've had a lot of interest in the pet space from dog hotels, Wolfgang Bakery. We've had clients invest in different service-based concepts like accelerated waste solutions, even financial products like Univista, as well as Estrella Insurance. So all different types of businesses. Most of our clients prefer to invest in a service business where they're able to open up for less capital, around $100,000, where they provide the service on premise of their client, whether it's a business or a homeowner, or open up a retail business that's relatively easy to open up. So that maybe imagine a second generation restaurant that you're converting into a franchise business, or an insurance agency that you sign the lease and you can open up in about 30 days, 60 days max. Our clients are generally shying away from big developments of, say a preschool or something that's going to take a long time to open, especially if they're not already residing here in the United States.
Oh, great. I mean, what sort of people do you normally deal with? What sort of characters do you normally deal with when someone's coming to you and they're in one of these other countries, they know nothing about the United States and franchising in the United States, and is there a typical type of character?
Well, I think most of our clients actually do know a lot about the United States, where they've spent time here. Maybe they've studied, maybe they've had, a sabbatical, or they've spent a month in the summer, and they are somewhat familiar with the US, maybe not from a business perspective. And also, many of our clients haven't yet owned a business, or at least done business in the United States. So a lot of our clients like the benefit of a franchise business model, especially if they're leaving the corporate life. And also, if they haven't run and operated their own business, they're able to divide and conquer with the franchisor, where the franchisor might be responsible for supplier relationships, managing the brand, maybe marketing, even some sales, lead generation. And then the franchisee is able to focus more on the client servicing, as well as the hiring, training, and firing of employees.
Yeah, it's yeah, fascinating stuff. I just want to recognize the fact that we have Johnny Joseph here, and Johnny is a lovely chap. He's been a guest on the show. He is an expert in all things franchise auditing. And I believe the topic when he was on was "Don't worry, it's just a franchise audit," and it was a great conversation. So it's lovely to welcome you, Johnny, from Los Angeles, and looking forward to hearing your thoughts and experiences on dealing with perhaps franchisees from other parts of the world. So thanks for being here. Just going to put up a few things here. We had that question a while ago from Julie about the UK, which you beautifully answered there, Patrick. But Sanjay added something here. Let's have a look at and see whether we need to make a comment on this. Sanjay's put, Julie, investor visa tier 1, I think, unless this is changed since we have had 4 to 5. Yes, we have. We've had a lot of prime ministers, but
Harvey, if anyone's interested in the tier 1 options of the different investor visas, entrepreneur visas that exist in the UK, I do have contacts there,
great.
based in London, that could help immigrants or potential operators discover if there's an opportunity to explore further.
Fantastic. Well, please reach out to Patrick if you want to know more, and I'll know where to point people if I hear about them as well. So that's fantastic. Um, what was I? I was going to ask you a little bit now about. I mean, we're about 20 minutes in now, so I was going to ask you a question. We're talking about the stories because I imagine you're changing people's lives, a lot. I mean, you've got another question actually I was going to ask is it's 80,000, is it $80,000 is thereabouts for the visa? Is
There's
that
no
right?
minimum. We've had approvals as low as $60,000, but I guarantee results at 100K or more. So if you commit $100,000, that could
Okay.
be invested, that could be escrowed. I guarantee our fees, and there's some other stipulations. We want you to go at least in twice, but 100K, I guarantee results. Under that, we put a best efforts, but you still should stand a strong chance of being approved. And then also for those that have a business, whether it's a franchise business, an online business, if we're ever able to demonstrate you're transferring your whole business to the United States, including the intellectual property, maybe some of the contracts, that can count as the investment. It doesn't have to be a cash investment. So that's something we're doing much more of, where you might own a brand in the United Kingdom, or you might own a brand in France, and you're going to be transferring that IP and really transferring the business operations to the US. And the investment could be really minimal. We're talking 10K of just working capital.
Okay. So how that's really interesting actually. So how is that 60, 80, $100,000 made up? What elements are you paying for when you're getting this visa?
So the embassy or consulate wants to see that you've invested a substantial amount of capital to operate a business that is going to contribute not just to you as a business owner, but also have a positive impact for your stakeholders, whether it's the local community, the employees, the contractors that you hire. So if it's say 100K, if it's a franchise, maybe you allocate 40K for the franchise fee. You could put down for a rent deposit 5K, and then maybe you prepay rent for 6 months, so that gets you up to 20,000. Maybe you buy a vehicle, you need to service the business, that's another 30,000. So, and then some working capital can also be allocated. Our fees together with the franchise attorney fees, that's about another say 9K. So that gets you to the 100K mark pretty fast.
Okay, that's really interesting. So your part of it is relatively small, and in fact, the franchise fees are already kind of included in that figure of 80 or 100,000.
Exactly. Yeah. Say the 100K, we charge 6,600 for our services. We do the LLC, the tax ID, the EIN, business bank account, business plan, personalized franchise search, brand due diligence. You get access to our sister company, Database Vetted Biz. And then we also do the document collection, source of funds analysis. And that helps bring the immigration attorney fees way down.
Okay, that's really interesting. Really interesting. We've got a couple of questions here. Let's have a
Sure.
little look at what these ones are. We've got Sanjay, and Sanjay has put the dollar exchange rate has become more expensive for us Brits. Has this and the pending US election had an impact on the number of foreign nationals investing in the US? Yeah,
We
great.
haven't seen it because I think the arbitrage is so big right now, between if you move from the UK or Canada to the United States, where business owners can be making double, your spouse as an employee probably could be making double. We have data analysts, software engineers that are going to come to the United States, and one of the spouses invests in a franchise, the other one gets a job as a software or a STEM related business, and pays significantly higher than the UK. And if you're in Florida, you know, a family making 300K, you're paying 20-25% tax, where UK, I don't know, 40% plus. The rates really jump up fast in Canada and Western Europe. Where in the United States, if you're not in Canada, New York, and a few of these high tax states, you're not paying much in taxes.
I'm booking my ticket right now.
So we haven't seen that, and the E2 visa issuances broke records the last government fiscal year for 2023, with nearly 53,000 issuances at consulates and embassies abroad.
Wow. Wow. That's fantastic. Let's have a look at a question here from Johnny. What's Johnny put? Johnny's put regarding the amount to be escrowded. Wow, that's a good word. Like that word. How long is it held? And what are the mechanisms for its release? Are there other funds and proof thereof needed? Yeah, good question. Yeah, what's the
So for
mechanic?
those that aren't familiar with the term of escrowing funds, it's similar to when you buy a house. I don't know the term you use in England, but you're going to put those funds in an escrow account, a type of an account that they can only be released under certain circumstances. For this to work and for your investment to be irrevocably committed, the only contingency for the funds to be released to the franchise seller or back to you as the investor is the condition on the E2 visa being approved. So if the E2 visa is denied, the funds can go back to you. If the E2 visa is approved, they go to the seller, whoever you had a contract in place with. So in terms of how long it's held, if you're applying in Canada, it could be a month. If you're applying in the UK, 2 to 3 months. It's going to depend on where you're applying from, as consulates are taking, just a couple of weeks or up to 4 or 5 months. And the only mechanism for the only condition should be the E2 visa being approved or denied for the funds to be released to the seller or back to you as the investor. And then are there other funds? A lot of people aren't, I should say, franchise sellers or business sellers aren't fully comfortable with having all the funds in an escrow account, especially if it's going to take 4 months for them to have a release of funds. And there's a small chance, say 5% chance, that you don't get approved for the visa. So usually there's a non-refundable component that you might pay $10K to the franchisor or $20K to the franchisee that's selling their existing franchise. All these things are negotiable, and we support with that, and then bring in the franchise attorney to wrap up and support the legal side of it.
Oh, fantastic. Really interesting. Do you find that there are, you talk there of franchisees coming from, let's say, another region and investing in a US-based business. And then we spoke a little bit earlier about franchisors taking their own business. And so you offer a service that helps both of those categories. If you're a franchisor and if you're a franchisee, is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, we're mostly focused on helping you get the E2 visa. But if you need help with like sourcing vendors, sourcing franchisees, we can put you in contact with different consultants that can help you with that. But I'm of the firm of belief, if you're bringing a company to the United States, it should be you bearing the risk. And every week I get asked, from someone from abroad, oh, I have this business, I have 3 locations or 10 locations, I want you to sell franchises for me. And I say, hey, hold on, why don't you test out the US market and you raise money from your contacts and you open up a few locations in the United States, and hopefully it's successful, and then you can go to people you don't know and start selling franchise license. But for me, I don't find it responsible to bring in people to a franchise concept in a new country until it's really proven.
I think you're absolutely right. It does need to. It's the premise of any franchise business, isn't it? You have your idea, you form it as a business. Even if you've got franchising in your mind right from the beginning, you prove the model. Franchising, the very nature of it is you're buying into a proven model. And even if you're investing in a new franchise business, there still has to be some proof that that is working as a model. A couple of company-owned sites or whatever it
Exactly.
might be. So let's have a look at a comment here from Simon. Simon's put, if you were transferring an existing franchise stroke business, do you assist in the trademark registration process, etc.? Or is the Madrid Protocol still available to register brands in multiple countries? Do you get involved
For
in
that, I mean, we have a couple IP attorneys that we work with that charge a reasonable rate, and we would just bring them into the fold to make sure it's done right from the start.
Fantastic. That's great. Well, we're at the 30-minute mark. So if you've just joined us, this is the Franchise Show, and we are talking E2 visas with the wonderful Patrick Findaro. Please check the replays of this show. But if you're joining us live, please make a comment. We always bring them up. They drive the content of the show, and it's always fantastic to have people here. So it sort of brings us to another. I mean, you've done so many things within the franchise world. There's too many to pick, really. But I would like to talk a little bit about what you do on YouTube and your videos and how you sort of support franchise businesses in that way. How did that all come about, and what service do you offer? I mean, I see your wonderful videos, but tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, definitely. So we have a few YouTube properties that, in aggregate, they have about 100,000 views. And a lot of what we do is just talk about different franchise opportunities, whether it's myself or my brother and business partner, Jack, or bringing a franchisee in, or hearing directly from the brand president or the founder of the franchise brand. So we do different videos, and mostly in English, but also one of the channels is in Spanish. And it started, the genesis was from the COVID era back in March 2022, March 2020. Miami, we didn't really feel COVID much, but it was just like a 2-month period that people were laying low. And during that period, I did a video every day.
Okay.
Where I was listening to some podcasts, the marketing school, and I just wanted to test it out based on one of those episodes to do content every day for a year. So I did that, and a lot of the content was horrible. And I look at those prior videos and I laugh. And yeah, after 18 months, I learned to check my ego, because people say a lot of negative things, but I find 75% of the comments, there is something to learn from, even if many of those comments have a negative tilt. A lot of these videos, I did make mistakes about the franchise that I was reviewing, or information that I didn't have on hand that the negative comment or positive comment was adding in. So I do like that feedback loop with these franchise videos. We have no compensation structure set up with franchisors. We don't charge franchisors anything for doing these videos. I'm trying to think. In the last 4 years, we've had, I guess, 2 sponsors, but we don't monetize the videos with sponsorships or brand promotion. We monetize just through our core business at Visa Franchise, as well as our sister company, Vetted Biz, and it's a good way to generate brand exposure, as well as lead generation for the services we sell, like helping people move to the US on the E2 visa.
Absolutely. So it just complements other things that you're doing there. Yeah, you made some really interesting points. You know, that learning as you're going along doing these things, you know, people do, you know, whatever business you're in, you know, you keep learning and tweaking and change. You try doing it live, Patrick. You can't edit out this. Also, I think as well about embracing negative comments, or embracing any kind of advice, or, you know, these conversations go all sorts of different ways, and people have all sorts of different thoughts. We have an amazing community of people, but yeah, I think you should embrace it. Let's have a little look. Let's have a look at this question, actually, while it's on the screen. Sorry, Julie. I agree entirely with this principle. And we also see the same with people trying to bring a franchise from the US to the UK and wanting someone else to test it for them. That goes back to the comment where people say, can you launch our brand in the US? So no, thanks for that comment, Julie. That's great. Let's have a little look at one from Simon, because it's relating to the conversation we're having here. You mentioned there a figure of 100,000 views, for all of those videos. Now, it's really interesting because, of course, franchising within the sort of YouTube world is not necessarily the one that gets millions of views as such, but that's incredible numbers for franchising based videos. And Simon's put, any tips for building your YouTube audience? How did you do it? What made it so popular on that particular platform?
I think you really need to have a giver mentality where we give a lot of information and a lot of value for free. And then if people want us to execute on what we propose, then they can hire us to execute on it. But listening to customers, listening to the audience, and really understanding what type of content they want produced for the specific audience that you're trying to go after. And then I think just reps, like I said, do 50 videos, get them published. A lot of people are afraid of being in front of the camera, and you got to do 10 videos and hit 50 videos until you really hit your stride. And no one's going to really watch those first 50 videos. Maybe it'll have cumulative views of like 2,000 and not like 100,000 per month. So I think I recommend just producing whatever people drive value from your conversations, and stick to your expertise. We just do videos on US immigration and franchising. And we have a 25-person team behind me. So it's not just Patrick and his thoughts, but it's the collective knowledge from our 25-person team, as well as the hundreds of clients that we've served over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to put that in. We were speaking before about you just have to put that investment and that time into it to build any audience. We're here on LinkedIn, we're here on YouTube, we're here on Facebook, and to build any audience. I really like what you put about having a giver mentality. I think that's really, really important, really relevant, because if you go out there wanting to give and to bring others up, and just provide value, even when it's free, just to provide value in exchange for someone's time for watching that video, then I think it's really, really relevant. So no, great. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Patrick. You mentioned you had another business there, Vetted Business, or Vetted Biz, sorry. What's Vetted Biz? What's that all about?
Definitely. So, as I mentioned, my brother and I started Visa Franchise back in 2015, and we accumulated a database of franchises after reviewing all these franchise disclosure documents, SBA loan default information, all this information on the franchisors, executives, etc. So it was in a pretty dense Excel document. And in 2019, we thought about how we could better help and share this information, and as well as make money eventually. But we started Vetted Biz in 2020, basically putting this database online, and that business has transpired into lead generation for SBA lenders, lead generation for franchise brokers, as well as a subscription model for current franchisees, prospective franchisees, private equity investors, consulting firms, anyone that's looking to make an investment in a franchise or further study the market. We have a monthly plan as well as an annual plan for those that want to access this type of data.
Fantastic. Just want to recognize the fact that we've got Danny here. Great to have you here, Danny. I've also had the privilege of meeting Danny at several events. Danny's put, I like the point about being a giver. So do I, Danny. I thought that was just such a lovely thing to say, actually. And I think that, if you go out there giving, and not expecting anything in return, then you really do start to lift others up. People appreciate it when you give them something for free and they end up executing with you anyway. Bang on. Yeah.
And I think the sales cycle is a lot less. Like our most recent client, he saw a bunch of our videos and I spent 12 minutes with him over a phone call, sent our contract out another 3 minutes, and he signed a $6,600 engagement. So that took 15 minutes of my time, and now our client servicing team is working with that gentleman. But if I wasn't doing the videos, if I didn't garner the trust from these YouTube videos, the emails and everything, it might have been more like a 2 to 3 hour sell. So we find it's extremely efficient from a sales process. And of the 25 employees we have across organizations, I probably do sales 20% of my time, and then I have 2 full-time salespeople. So pretty light in terms of when you look at the overall organization in terms of sales. The most of them are focused on product and client servicing.
That's brilliant. I really want to pick up on something you said there because it resonates with me, and it resonates with what we do on a Thursday with franchising brand stories. So franchising brand stories is all about telling the story behind the brand, and having a conversation, not about the numbers, but about those stories, the characters, and you start to become aligned as a potential franchisee with that brand when you can see the founder and the characters there, and what you said there about it helping and reducing down that time in the sales process. Yeah, I think that's fantastic because it's absolutely true. If you've got a funnel here, and we all know that right at the top of the funnel, you need quite a few, in inverted commas, leads to get yourself a new franchise partner. If you've got 200 sitting there at the top and you're trying to get 1 or 2 down at the bottom, and you get them to watch one of the type of videos that you do there, Patrick, or engage in something like this on a LinkedIn Live, they start to know who you are. And they start to understand whether they'd like to do business with you, because it's a 5-year partnership and doing business with someone, and
at least
get to know them. Yeah.
For franchising in the US, I mean, the contracts are 5 to 20 years.
Yes, exactly. So you're picking a business partner that you've got to be able to work with. I say it all the time that you've got to get to know one another, and that takes time. But doing something like this, I mean, all the wonderful people that are here every week on this show and the other one, I know them all. I know them all really well, and they know me. And it's a great way of building a community. So I love that point about the fact that those videos just help that process. They really do. They really do. Let's have a little look. We've got look at that. We've got Jason Kaber from SEO Samba, and look at that, Jason. Top right hand, we've got your logo. SEO Samba are one of our lovely sponsors. Fantastic to have you here, Jason. Please reach out to them if you would like to coordinate your marketing and empower your franchise. So great to have you here, Jason. Let us know if you've got any final thoughts. And look, we've got somebody new. Let's say hello and recognize Howard Picker. Great to have you here, Howard. Howard's put great content. Thank you. Well, it's more thanking the lovely Patrick here. I'm just asking the questions and wearing a silly hat. He's giving us all the great content. But thank you, Howard, for being here. Really appreciate your time, and I hope you've enjoyed the show. We are starting to get towards the end of today's session. It's been a really fascinating conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I can't help but notice on your bookshelf there that there is, and my eyes aren't that good, probably need glasses, but I think that's a picture of you, isn't it?
Definitely.
It is.
We got a few. Whenever you're in Miami Beach, I'll give you a physical copy.
That's very good. That's very good. So what, tell us a brief bit about your book. Come on, let's promote your book.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was basically a nexus of having conversations with over 1,000 franchisees, franchisors, and understanding that there's a lot of fluff, and it's a big emotional process buying a business, and having a little more systematized in a 12-week process, so people go through and really understand what they're getting into, and whether it's the financing aspect or the brand due diligence or validating with franchisees, but going through it the right way, as well as we have case studies with mostly franchisees, 10 case studies in the book where they share their stories of how they went about the process and how they're operating the businesses. And it's all different types of industries represented.
Fantastic. I was just proving that your background was real as well, making you pick a book off it. That's fantastic. So we are drawing towards the end today. It's been a fantastic episode. I've really enjoyed learning from you, Patrick, about E2 visas and where they sit globally as well, and how they're going to help change people's lives who are looking to relocate to somewhere that they feel is going to better suit their needs and their family. So I think it's a sterling service that you offer. I love what you do on YouTube. You're a great franchise resource, so please do keep up the good work. Before we completely finish off, have you got any final thoughts you'd like to share about E2 visas, about vetted bids?
No one will care as much about the success of the business as you. So to the extent that you moving to a different country are able to work 40, 60 hours a week, no matter what, for first 18, 24 months, that's really essential in our experience. The US is an extremely competitive market. You can make a lot of money here, but it's really results oriented, and you got to put the time in, and the work week is much more intense than other countries like the UK and Canada. But it's also can be pretty compressed. So people really, going 9 to 5 full force. You as a business owner in the first 2 years, it's going to be more than that. But yeah, the US, no one's waiting for you here, but there are amazing opportunities financially and for your kids. But you got to put in the work.
Yeah, that's a great sort of finish to the show, and I think you make some really fine points there, because you do have to work. In franchising, people make that mistake. I think we're going to do a show on misconceptions about franchising, but people think because you're being given a model, you don't have to work hard, but it's absolutely not the case. You do have to work hard, but you've still got that extra boost of having that brand and that proven model behind you. Just before I let people know the best way to get in touch with you, Patrick, I'd just like to say that if you would like to sponsor this lovely show, there is a QR code on the screen right now. So please scan it, and it will take you to the section where you can find out all about that. And you can have your lovely logo here, or a message, or I'll product placement you, or something like that. Anyway, so Patrick, please let our lovely audience know the best way to get in touch with you, and a little bit more about your company.
Definitely. The easiest way, shoot me an email at patrick@visafranchise.com. Visa like the credit card company, franchise as in franchising, patrick@visafranchise.com. I see a comment. The book is How to Buy a Franchise Employed Entrepreneur in 12 Weeks. You can probably Google my name, Patrick Findaro, and you should be able to see the book on the first page of Google to buy it on the Amazon store.
Fantastic. Well, that's great. Well, look, we are now at the end. So I'd like to thank you so much, Patrick, for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Harvey.
Yeah, no problem. I'd like to thank everybody who's been here in the audience today. As ever, you drive the show, and it wouldn't be the same without you. So next week, please join us. Look, I'm going to have a look to see who's here next week. Join us next Tuesday for the franchise show, and we are going to be talking to Joel Libava, the franchise king. So get your crowns at the ready for that one. And we're going to be talking about protecting aspiring franchisees. So that's going to be a lovely conversation. Please join us live for that. We are not here this week for Franchising Brand Stories, but we are back on the 16th of May for Franchising Brand Stories. Both shows, as ever, 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST on a Tuesday for the franchise show and on a Thursday for Franchising Brand Stories. So until next time, have a wonderful week in franchising and take good care, my friends. Cheerio.